All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'll call this meeting of the Washoe County Open Space and Regional Parks Commission to order. First order of business, roll call. Let's start down here.
Austin Olson, can't get my mic on, but I'm here.
And loud.
Chris Ensel.
Nathan Daniel.
Matthew Weber.
I think I'm also having mic difficulties, maybe. Carissa Chishiro.
Okay, great. So we have a quorum. A little trick with the mic. If you just have to push it once, it takes a little bit for time for it to come on, and then it's a good idea to turn it off. I'll do it. All right, on to item number 2, which is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On to item number 3, we have administer the oath of office to newly appointed commissioners Matthew Weber, Chris Nenzel, and Carissa Tashiro.
Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Parent, Washoe County Clerk, and it's my pleasure to be here to swear you in this afternoon. If you, the 3 appointees, if you would please stand, raise your right hand, and then repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Carissa Chishiro.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and government
and the Constitution and government
of the State of Nevada
of the State of Nevada
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
whether domestic or foreign,
whether domestic or foreign,
and that I will bear true faith,
and that I will bear true faith,
allegiance, and loyalty
allegiance, and loyalty
to the same,
to the same,
any ordinance,
any ordinance,
resolution, or law
resolution, or law
of any state
of any state,
notwithstanding,
notwithstanding,
and that I will well
and that I will well
and faithfully perform
and faithfully perform
all the duties of the office
all the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God, or so affirmed.
So help me God, or so affirm.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, that's fantastic, and it's really nice to see the 3 of you here. We're really happy to have you, and yeah, well done. Okay, next we're going to go, and then unless there's something else any of you would like to say at this point, no? Then we'll go on to the next item, which is public comment. We do have one public comment. That would be Kathy Brandhurst.
Distance 0.0 miles. Average pace 0 minutes.
Oh, what's that?
You're killing it.
Yes, my name is Kathy Brandhurst, and I'm also the United States President. I just wanted to let you know I have quite a few police reports because of the area that I do live in, and that area is a very bad area. It's more for people who live on their own, but they need assistance with other neighbors, like stealing my gas, my electric, also stealing my hot water, or my running water, also stealing my cable, and they have to steal this through poles and wires. The poles and wires are getting thicker and thicker and thicker every day. It doesn't go away. It gets worse. Because where they live, they don't live there at all. They're not supposed to be on the property. They cannot be there, but they have been arrested more than 600 times. Oh my God. But they still come back, and because they don't have no place to live for nothing. And I just wanted to let you know, I was at the police department and these great big giant scissors came right by me and cut my strings off of my blouse, my shirt, and the police did nothing to arrest this person at all. They just allowed him to use those great big scissors and cut off my strings off of my blouse. And I thought that was very rude and very upsetting that they will not do anything about that. Also, I just wanted to let you know, stealing payroll checks is still an uproar for everybody in this city. It's stealing our money out of the bank accounts, and that is bank robberies. The bank robberies have been coming up quite high. I was sitting on the bench waiting for a bus when at the ATM machine. I heard everything. I heard every bank robber that walked up to use somebody else's bank accounts, like mine. And they had to steal every dollar out of that bank account in order to get themselves some money in their pockets. And I just wanted to tell you too that that's unreal. I could not believe that they're bank robbers.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 5, which is approval of the agenda for the Open Space and Regional Parks Commission meeting for July 13th, 2017. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, so that would be Chris moves to approve. We have a second. You can push the button, then everybody can hear you.
Aye. Second.
Okay, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Next would be approval of the minutes for the Open Space and Regional Parks Commission. I don't know if we can actually do that because the number of people that were at that meeting, we don't have enough to vote unanimous. I don't know.
For the record, Dave Solero, Community Service Department Director. I've had this question come up in other boards and commissions, and the legal representation that I'd heard at the time was just because the commissioners were not a part of that meeting does not mean that they cannot vote on that item. So you're free to go ahead and vote on that piece. I would suggest, however, that if you were there, then you may make that motion prior,
Okay.
as the motioner.
Sure, and so if, I may have been the only one there, so I think I probably was. Well, then I would move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right, passes unanimously. Next would be acknowledgement and recognition of Parks Operations staff for outstanding service and contribution to Washoe County. Director?
Good afternoon again, Dave Solero, Director, Community Service Department. Believe it or not, for this month, we don't have any park staff reaching a milestone at Washoe County for 5 years, so.
Okay, all right, thank you. Like it. Moving right along. All right, next would be review, discussion, and possible recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners regarding a proposed reclaimed water line and sewer force main alignment by Hines Ranch Land Company on parcel number 087-031-13, commonly known as Cold Springs Park, which is at 3355 White Lake Parkway.
Correct. For the record, Dennis Troy with Washoe County Parks Planner. As you stated, Commissioner Daniel, the request is for a sewer force main and reclaimed water line easement out at Cold Stream Park. There we go, it works. Cold Springs Park is about a 13.5-acre park that includes ball fields, basketball courts, a playground, a skate park, also the Cold Springs Community Center, and various other uses. The park in its current state actually is fully built out. Actually, over the past few years, quite a bit of turf was actually removed from this area to address some water concerns. You'll see that red line on the bottom left-hand side. That's actually the approximate line or alignment of the sewer force main and reclaimed water line. Here is an exhibit of the Cold Springs Park Master Plan. And again, you can see the approximate alignment of this sewer force main. The proposed easement does not conflict with the Parks Master Plan. There's actually nothing that's going to be built out over in that area. Actually, most of this corner was underwater this winter during flood events. It's also important to note that the applicant looked at different alternatives for this alignment. They looked at running it down Village Parkway and then across White Lake Parkway as well. What these 90-degree, essentially where it crosses over White Lake Parkway and Village Parkway is at a 90-degree angle. So it's really limiting the impact of the existing infrastructure. If they were to run it down the roads, they'd be tearing out the entire road, resurfacing it, as well as the existing sidewalks. So this alignment does significantly have a much less impact on the existing infrastructure. So here's a close-up view of that area, and one thing that's important to note is that this has been reviewed internally by staff operations as well as our Public Works and Engineering Division. So what you see here is actually an all-weather surface base on top of the alignment. This is actually a requirement of our Public Works and Engineering Division. They need to be able to go in there should an emergency happen and be able to fix this alignment. So that's actually why you're seeing that road alignment right there. The areas that are going to be disturbed adjacent to this will be reseeded with a native seed mix, and also there will be temporary irrigation that will be installed by the proponent of this easement until it's fully established. So per the Parkland easement policy, the next steps is that the Park Commission review this and identify any sort of additional mitigation measures if applicable. Fast forwarding, if they do believe that this is appropriate and it should move forward, at that time the applicant would actually have the property assessed for a value, and they'd have a legal description prepared, and then it would go in front of the Board of County Commissioners. So at this time, you can either choose to discuss and identify any additional mitigation measures, make a recommendation to the board as appropriate, or move forward with staff's recommendation. Before that, we actually have a presentation from Angela Foos with Loomis and Associates, who represents the applicant, and I will turn things over to her.
Thank you. For the record, Angela Foos with Loomis and Associates here today on behalf of Hines Ranch. I do have a quick presentation. It's almost exactly like Mr. Troy's presentation, but I do have a couple added things I'm going to bring to the table as soon as we get it up. Just maybe to go into a little bit of background as to why the sewer line is being put in here. So Mr. Troy talked about the reason we're actually asking to go through the parkland versus the right-of-way. Tearing up the road causes a lot more damage. One thing that we can do as part of the park, here we go. I'm just going to fast forward here to this slide. So the yellow area is the easement, and that's what I wanted to focus on. This easement is 40 feet wide, and so that road is 20 feet wide. The area in green is the re-veg area. So most of this area is pretty, well, here's some has a lot of developed vegetation, especially after this wet year. So these are all pictures that we're taking this week, so you can see how actually green and lush it looks Once we take out that 40-foot strip of area that we'll need to actually put in the road and put in the re-veg, the area of disturbance is actually going to be less than that. It's more about 4,100 square feet. The total square footage of the easement is closer to 9,600 square feet. So we'll obviously save as much vegetation as we can, and then we'll replant through a re-veg seed mix, whatever we disturbed. And then depending on the year, again, if we have a pretty wet year next year, I think it'll come in pretty quickly. If we have a dry year, we do have that temporary irrigation, so that will supplement not having enough water through just natural water coming from rain, so that will take care of that issue. So we had previously talked to staff about what type of vegetation. Should we put in a re-veg seed mix? Should we put in trees and shrubs? And the preference was to put in exactly what we're taking out. So the idea of putting in trees and shrubs here just didn't make sense, because this is a part of the park that is never going to be developed, and it makes more sense to leave it as is. So with that is where we came up with a proposal just to do the re-veg seed mix. And with that, I'm open to any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
I have a question. What impact do you expect this to have to the people who are going to the park?
For the record, Dennis Troy, Washoe County. It will actually have zero impact.
Okay.
It'll have its own separate entrance. It doesn't affect any of the existing uses in the site.
Okay, very good.
Just turn your mic on when you.
Sorry, I tried.
It helps for the record. That's part of the reason. My only question is the reclaimed water. Where does that reclaimed water go? And this has nothing to do with parks, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, at this point, the Cold Springs sewer treatment plant does not provide reclaimed water. We've been in discussions with the county for quite some time, so the idea has come up that it potentially down the road could provide reclaimed water. So we wanted to add that language to the easement so that if the plant is designed in the future to provide that ability, then we would have the ability to put that reclaimed line in this easement.
So right now, you're just putting in a sewer line with the future option of
Correct.
going back in to put in reclaimed.
And
have the
depending on what happens between now and actual construction of the sewer line, that could that could allow us to put in a reclaimed line, knowing that in the near future, it's likely that that would be something that plant is able to serve.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Yeah, the only other thing I'd say is just it's a small path through an unused portion of the park. So I think I appreciate the fact that according to your map, it's a pretty small impact. It's like surgical. So that's good.
Carissa Tashiro, for the record, I just had one additional question. The staff report mentions that the area is currently used as a drainage course, and you mentioned flooding after our weather this year, and so I'm just wondering if the easement will affect drainage or flooding in any way.
For the record, Dennis Troy with Washoe County. I'm going to go back, and you can actually see the existing drainage. Is there a pointer? No. Is pretty much the same alignment as the western property boundary of the park. As you can see, the drainage course actually does kind of run through where that gap is between the two different all-surface roadways. If Angela wants to add anything to that, I think that she can speak to it as well. So.
Yeah, just to follow up on that. So the area where we have that gap, where we did not put a road, that's where that drainage goes. And the idea is that we're going to have a sewer line running underneath that, but we didn't want to put a roadway over it. So you can see, I don't think I have the ability to, there's no red laser, is there? Okay. But you can see on the very southern portion of this map, crossing White Lake Parkway, that's where that drainage goes underneath White Lake Parkway and then continues to go north.
Thank you.
All right. If no other questions or discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
This is Carissa Tashiro. I'll move to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners to approve the sale of a reclaimed water line and sewer force main easement by the Hines Ranch Land Company on on APN 087031113, commonly known as Cold Springs Park, per the Parkland easement policy.
All right, any second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, that'd be second from Mr. Nenzel, and further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Great, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 8, 9. We have Community Services Department budget update.
No.
So I'll pass this over
From the
to
last 2 months? Boy, that's...
Director Solero.
No problem. Good afternoon. For the record, Dave Solero, Director of Community Services Department. We may have a brief presentation for you. I've been trying to get this on the commission's agenda for at least a couple of months to really discuss budget, where we stand, kind of the direction the county is headed this fiscal year with budget that actually just began July 1st. So I don't know if we, Mr. Large might say I'm going to, break some open meeting law by providing this right now, but I've done it with the Board of County Commission. You all have not seen this information either, so the public is seeing it for the first time as well. So really, it's this is a review of the county manager's recommended budget, which includes the Open Space and Park Commission or Open Space and Parks budget for Washoe County. So. A couple of key things that have occurred within Washoe County this year include a couple of federally declared disasters that occurred in January and February that we're still working through as a county. There was so we'll go over the disaster-related estimates. I'll cover the county manager's recommendations, and then really kind of a special topic on Parks and Recreation. For the benefit of the new commissioners, park budgets have been cut over the years pretty substantially with some other services within Washoe County. Libraries is another one. There was a tiered approach to reductions in budget. Parks and libraries ended up with the highest amount of cuts, roughly 40% of our budget. And so this Park Commission has been a very good advocate for us in trying to claw our way back, so to speak, to a manageable budget. Not saying that what we have is not manageable, but just trying to really understand and let everybody know how important parks are for this region. It's a very important piece of our quality of life. And so we've been working with the park commissioners, community services department to try to get above base funding. That's our mechanism right now. It's called above base funding to grow our budget. So again, we've had a few disasters in the last tail end of the last fiscal year running from July 1st through June 30th. Started really with the Little Valley fire, and then in October progressed into January flood, and then into the February flood. And so part of the process that we're going through right now as Washoe County is we've got to upfront load costs associated with disaster recovery. So the January and February floods, February really considered the North Valley flood, shows that we've got to come up with approximately $8 million. Now, since this slide was developed for the presentation to the budget, those numbers continue to grow. We are still responding out in North Valleys at the tune of roughly $100,000 a month for response activities associated with Swan Lake. So these numbers continue to grow. I bring this up because the available funding for Washoe County, coincidentally enough, what we've got available is about $8 million. That was kind of the piece. If we take out the contingency in 2017, the contingency in 2018, we utilize the stabilization fund, and we use some monies that are in our capital improvement fund to come up with that $8 million. That is how Washoe County has chosen to deal with the upfront costs associated with the flood. Now, there's up to 75% reimbursement from FEMA because these were federally declared disasters that we are working through to get reimbursed as we go through this. But we've got to come up with the money to pay the contractors, to pay our staff, as we go through that. So we do have some backup options, you know, to go into and essentially defer some of our capital improvements within Washoe County to give us a little bit more cushion there. But the issue really becomes, again, that this short-term cash flow problem we have. And so, so the recommendation from the county manager, well, let me jump ahead through the flood costs. I mean, we've got like I say, the contingency accounts, the stabilization fund, CIP fund. The county manager's recommendation actually is that we don't have any above base funding within this fiscal year. There was a small amount that was actually done for some reclassifications and a few other things. It was, oh gosh, I want to say somewhere around $80,000 in the general fund, outside of cost of living type increases that were already there. So with the cost of living increases, the retiree benefits, and some of those other sorts of things, you know, there was an $11 million increase to the general fund budget. Again, no real above base costs associated with that. So the parks portion of the budget is really funded through this general fund. We have the above base requests. But really, at the end of the day, you know, there was about $1.5 million that the county manager could have utilized for above base requests throughout all 24 departments within Washoe County. The decision was made not to do that at this time, but to utilize that funding for disaster recovery. So no above base funding is really kind of where we ended up. We still have some unanticipated costs that the county has got to go through as well. Some federal issues with, you know, potential still for the healthcare repeal and replacement. We're getting to the bottom of the state legislative issues, some of those sorts of things as the legislature is now complete. And then we still have some items out there that are county issues specific to the county. There's still a lawsuit with some Incline Village properties, and then some issues to go through with the courts and the sheriff's office. So again, end of the day, a little bit of general fund, or a little bit of increase in taxes and those sorts of things to the general fund. However, we've decided to, the county manager and the Board of County Commissioners have decided to hold off on making any above base requests. That doesn't mean that we've come to the end and we can't do anything for parks. And so again, the first priority is to cover the disaster. The second priority would be to cover those unknown costs. And the third priority would then be to look at those above base requests that are out there from all the departments and make a determination. And this is as we move forward through the fiscal year and we get reimbursements from FEMA and we kind of tie down some of these other costs, there is a chance that we can still get some above base funding this fiscal year. As we go through the fiscal year, I'll keep you up to date whether we actually get to that point or not. So Chairman Daniel and I have spoken a little bit specifically regarding parks. And so, some information here talking about the open space and regional park budget at the peak kind of pre-recession high, roughly $8.75 million. That's what it took to operate, maintain, and function within parks. One of the things that has occurred, however, over the years is we've now taken and created from 5 departments, 1 department in the community services department, is we've shifted some employees and we've done some other things. Still tracking kind of how much funding goes to parks. I mean, it's a separate function within government, so it can't be mingled with other things. So we've got a really good handle on what it is it takes, what the budget looks like for parks. One of the things we noticed through this exercise, however, was that traditionally over the years, parks as a department, as it sat out there, while it was budgeted at $8.75 million, there was, through no fault of anybody's, just through the process, there was always money that was then returned to the general fund at the end of the day. So one of the things we've been very successful with in the community services department is spending the available budget that we've got to do all of these great things. So I haven't gotten the numbers for last fiscal year. We're still crunching those numbers. I've got the fiscal compliance officers. I think they were a little they were uncomfortable at the end of the fiscal year, which is a good thing because that means we got really close to spending the entire budget for things associated with parks. Not just willy-nilly, but things important to parks. So again, this is one of those slides where we're looking. We were at 8.7. We went down to 4.4. Last fiscal year, we're at 6.2. Now that includes some small increases to the general fund base budget. It also includes cost of living increases and contributions to post-retirement accounts. So while it looks like we've actually got more cash to spend, that's not necessarily the case. However, retention of employees, good employees is a good thing. So we actually got some cost of living increases. So that's shown on this slide as well. We do have quite a robust capital improvement program, mostly funded by park construction tax and grants. So here's a list of the fiscal year 17 capital improvement programs. Projects, and we're going through those pretty well. We've got a lot of parks out for bid right now for playground replacements. We're working on a land acquisition for some open space. We've got the North Valleys Recreation Phase 5 headed down, so that's some more ball fields out in North Valleys Regional Park. Additionally, the current fiscal year includes again some more projects. We've got a couple of carryover projects here, but one of the items up there is the WC1 Lake Tahoe bike path. This is the east. Sorry, Cheryl, I'm going to butcher this one. Tahoe East Shore Trail. It's been in the news quite a bit recently. This is the connector from Incline Village to Sand Harbor and beyond. So we're helping fund portions of that. Again, some playground improvements and access out at Crystal Peak Park. So really, at the end of the day, our job right now, since we don't have any above base funding, is to make sure that we maximize the amount of budget that we have so that we're not turning anything back, rolling it back to the general fund. That's the commitment I've made to the chairman, that we will get to the point where we are spending every dime in our parks for the good of the parks. Chairman Daniel and I have also discussed a couple of times on specific programs that we can create moving forward to reestablish some of those programs moving forward. It's a lot easier for me to advocate for a program rather than just a percentage increase in our budget. And so, I offer that to you as new commissioners as well as the existing commissioners to think about those types of programs that you hear from your constituents that are important within our parks so that we can, work towards that. So I'll leave that open for any questions on budget.
Thank you. That's a great presentation, Director Solero. Could you do me a favor and just define how above base works for the commission?
Absolutely. So each year within the budget, our Washoe County budget group identifies what they project to be potential monies available for increases in budget. So every year we start with the same budget that we had the last year. It's not exactly like that for every fund, but for the general fund, that's where we start. We start with the funding from the prior year. Each department then within Washoe County reviews their programs, reviews the strategic plan. We develop needs associated with trying to put together this, the wishes, the wants of the Board of County Commissioners. And so programmatically, we come up with requests for additional funds. In the past, specific to parks, we've tried to increase funding for our weed program, our tree program, some of those programs that were cut during the fertilizers, some of those things that were cut during the recession that we know we need to implement for healthy parks. That's what we're trying to get to, healthy, safe parks. So each year, we put together this program. We vet the needs of the field staff with the needs of the county. We submit that to the budget office, and then we actually have an opportunity as a department to sit down with all of the budget analysts and the manager's staff to explain what it is we're trying to accomplish with the request and what benefit that brings to the county. Again, this is kind of competition for all of Washoe County's departments, 24 departments, including elected officials to increase budgets for the good of the citizens. So that's the process we go through, and then the manager makes his recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you. And just so a little bit of background on this, so for the past 2 years, I believe not 3, but 2, maybe 3, I'm not even sure now. This board has endorsed a letter to the county commissioners and to the county manager recommending that we see an increase in the above base spending to try to get us back to a place where we used to be pre-recession. And it's true that the department has changed. It's a different department with a division of parks. But if, back on slide 19, for instance, it still shows that essentially the parks department, or whatever you want to call it now, division, is still operating lower than like about $2 million-ish below where it used to be pre-recession, and that's 9-10 years ago now. So we're still operating on a deficit. We still don't have anywhere near the resources necessary, and a lot of that money that you see is coming back is cost of living adjustments. So even though some of that resource is coming back, we're not seeing more staffing, we're not seeing more maintenance costs. So the letter that we submitted last year recommended a number. We said 7% increase in above base. I agree with Director Solero that that's a little bit too general. There's nothing to bite into there. So I think before we do another letter, if the board decides that that's what we want to do, we should think about more specific programs, or more specifically what we would like, and we can work with staff on that to make more firm recommendations. The first letters that we did were very general, just said we should reinvest in parks. It didn't work, nothing happened, and so we made a percentage increase suggestion. Well, that didn't work, but that's kind of out of our hands. That's nature this year. Getting the better of all of us, I guess. But we'll see for the coming year. I think that would be a good recommendation, if I might. And so, and just to clarify, the capital improvement funds, there's $12 million in proposed capital improvements for parks in this fiscal year. Since we talked last, have you seen any of those capital improvement projects get slashed because of those are still kind of on the board?
Again, for the record, Dave Solero, Director. All of the park projects are still on the process, moving forward. So there's nothing that's been put on the back burner from the park projects.
So what were the capital improvement projects that were cut in the county?
So we haven't cut any yet. We've just identified some for deferral potentially, and so they're more on the building and technology side. We've been working with budget on that. The funding for the park projects, again, residential construction tax, some bond money that's tail end of some bond money, and grant funding. So
okay, so and just to clarify that, the residential construction tax and the bond funding, it can't go to any other departments anyway. It's all designated to go to parks anyhow, which is great.
Right. Yeah, and I believe there are 2 playground projects coming out of the general fund, but those have not been talked about for deferral.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Any questions for the director?
If I may just throw one thing out there, Chairman Daniel, you talked about the support, from the letters. I do have to say that, Commissioner Kitty Jung, the liaison to this board, very much behind trying to get funding, specific to parks. So it's not that things haven't gone anywhere. It's just that when there's $0, it's pretty hard to get a percentage of $0. But your commissioner liaison is very much behind you all and staff in this quest. So
That is true. She absolutely is, and I understand why there's no above base funding when you have no money. So if there's no comments or questions, then that is not an action item. So thank you for your report.
You bet. Thank you.
Director Next, we'll move on to item number 10, which is discussion and possible appointment of a Washoe County Open Space and Regional Park Commissioner to the working group for the development of a smoke-free park policy. Director?
Okay,
Or Superintendent, sorry.
no problem. Thank you. For the record, Colleen Wallace, Barnum Parks Operations Superintendent. So in January, there was a joint Park Commission meeting with City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County. And we had Aaron Dixon from the Health Department, as well as John Packham from UNR, did a presentation on a smoke-free environment in parks. It's just one of the places they've been able to really do smoke-free environments at many buildings, but there really hasn't been consistency in parks. And the boards at the time agreed that it would be a good idea. No decisions were made at that time in January. However, there is some movement through the City of Reno and City of Sparks, and actually Carson City as well, to create this working group to actually come up with a smoke-free policy. So the idea today was to see if one of you would be willing to volunteer, self-appoint, to be a member of that working group. It sounds as if City of Sparks is going to manage the open meeting laws, so this will actually be like an open meeting group, working group. We still will need some degree of administrative support for that meeting, but it will be something that's agendized, and so it's starting to happen. We just need a representative from Washoe County Open Space and Regional Parks Commission.
So it would be Sparks is kind of taking the lead on it, but it's going to be another joint meeting, or is it going to be,
It's just a working group, so it wouldn't be, the entire commissions of City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County, and Carson City. It would just be one representative from each, because the idea and the concept was citizens of our community, they aren't necessarily aware when they're going into a park, if it's a Washoe County a park, if it's a City of Reno park, they're in a park, and it would be great if we could have a consistent approach to a smoke-free environment through all of our parks departments. So
will it follow the open meeting, or is this?
it will.
Okay.
It will, and it sounds like Sparks is going to manage that portion of it.
Okay, that's what you're saying. I just don't
Yes.
understand what that means, but
I think they're going to just
see
make
what I mean.
sure that, there's a location that they're going to take the responsibility of maybe, administering this group from the perspective of the open meeting.
Okay, great, thank you.
Absolutely.
So, would anyone like to nominate themselves?
What would the time commitment be?
I don't know if I have an idea. I think the discussion was quarterly meetings at this point in time. So that's what I had heard.
Okay, thank you.
It's Chris Denzel. I suppose if nobody else wants to do it, I will.
Oh, that's a ringing self-endorsement. All right. Well, we have a nominee. Would anybody like to second that?
Austin Olson, I'll second that.
All right. Discussion. Seeing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. You're our man. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And this has been going on for a while, a year plus, and we got some momentum back in January. I think it's pretty much everybody thinks this is a good idea. It's just getting together a couple times. I would assume a few times at max, although don't quote me. It's on the record, but that's it. So thank you.
And if I can add one additional thing, sorry for the record, Colleen Wallace Barnum, Parks Operations Superintendent. There's a variation between smoke-free, vape-free, and tobacco-free. So some want a combination of all three, so that's part of the discussion, but the working group would help create this policy, and the policy could potentially be adopted by all parks departments.
All right. Thank you. So then moving on to review and possible recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners to approve an agreement between Washoe County and the Celtic Celebration, Inc. to hold a Celtic Celebration special event in Bartley Ranch Park on October 7th and 8th, 2017. Superintendent.
For the record, Colleen Wallace Barnum, Parks Operations Superintendent. Is it possible for me, I'm going to have a piece of paper here that I just want to show you. It's a map of Bartley Ranch Park. Okay. So just to kind of give you some background, the Celtic Celebration has been held at Bartley Ranch Park since 2007. So this would actually be the 10th year of the event. In the beginning years, we had them, they basically reserved the entire park. It's always been a fee-based event. Back when this first was created in 2007, it was really important to the board that you all sit on today that the park remain open to joggers, hikers. There's a lot of trails at Bartley Ranch Park. So it was really important for them that even if you weren't participating in the Celtic Celebration, that the park remain open and available. So that has always been the case from the very beginning, and the event is great. It's actually, I was managing the park for all the years that it took place. It's Celtic culture. They do music. They do what's called Highland games, so the hammer throws, and they have different types of animals out there for display. And then they also have clan tents, so there's some heritage, some Irish heritage and Celtic heritage to the event. And then there's also a living history area. So this is actually a map. I sent it all to you in an email, but just thought maybe you might want to see. So for some years while the economy wasn't doing great, they only reserved a portion of the park, but they've gone back to reserving the entire park. There is obviously, again, a fee associated with this event, and they're willing and able to pay their fees. They charge a fee, like I said, for participants to come in and enjoy the Celtic Celebration. It's always been on a Saturday and a Sunday, the first weekend in October, and that's remained consistent from the time they began the event back in 2007. And then in the staff report, I made sure I also mentioned, they're responsible for security, for cleanup, for parking. They're responsible from everything from start to finish. We do have park staff on site, but basically they run the event. And it's a daytime event. It pretty much runs from about 10 a.m. until 6 p.m., both Saturday and Sunday.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none. This is an action item, so any motion?
Austin Olson, I'll put in a motion to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners to approve the agreement between Washoe County and the Celtic Celebration.
Okay. Second?
It's Chris Nenzel. I'll second the motion.
All right. And any further discussion? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously.
Okay, great. For the record, Colleen Wallace Barnum, Parks Operations Superintendent. Chris Moreland is the current president. He works in Herlong, so he couldn't make it to the meeting today, and he apologizes, so I was speaking on their behalf.
Good to know, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 12, which is program/park of the month and volunteer programs update, so.
Okay, for the record, Colleen Wallace Barnum, Parks Operations Superintendent. I just wanted to introduce Denise Evans. She's our volunteer coordinator, and she's been doing this for how many years, Denise?
Since 2012.
Since 2012, and she's done a great job. She has a wonderful program, and she's highlighting some of her different volunteer projects as well as her program today.
For the record, again, Denise Evans, I'm the Parks Volunteer Coordinator, so thank you for the opportunity today to tell you a bit about our volunteer program. So I'm going to try to keep it brief, but there is quite a bit to tell you. We have a lot going on. So to start, the program began in 2009, and since then, we're now up to almost 20,000 volunteer hours in this past year. So if you do the math on that, it's equivalent to about 10 additional full-time employees, with an estimated national value of almost $500,000. So I wanted to explain where that value comes from, because it's normally on my volunteer report each month too. There's a website, independentsector.org, and it's one that most of us working with volunteers use. And right now, the estimated value for volunteers is $24.14 an hour. So that's how we get to the $500,000. So I want to start by talking about groups, because you may not realize really the majority of those volunteer hours are coming from groups that come to do a couple hours of volunteer work with us in the park. So I have on here just a couple examples of people are groups that have volunteered in the last year or so. We'll place them in a park kind of based on where they're interested in and where we have a need. There are community groups, religious organizations, and corporate groups. A lot of times they're just with us that one time, but we do have several that come back each year. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about our individual volunteers that we have in different areas throughout the county, just so again you have a good feel of what we have going on with volunteers. We have docents that help with tours at Bowers Mansion. The Galena Creek Visitor Center up at Galena Creek Regional Park has a variety of volunteers up there for various things. Our park rangers will have aides that go out and help them with things that they need, and they often stick to a particular park that they enjoy working at. Our regional shooting facility, that one is interesting. We have 4 volunteers there now, and they're very dedicated volunteers. One that I wanted to point out, Ron Holt, last month in June volunteered 114 hours just in the month of June. So those volunteers are doing a great job, and we did recognize them with a certificate from the governor for all of them. The range master took them out to lunch and just let them know that we appreciate them. I pointed out Eagle Scouts because their contribution is pretty significant. When we do have an Eagle Scout, they'll often put in a couple hundred hours within a month. And sometimes that can make a difference in my volunteer report from one year compared to the last, just with one project. We have a discovery room at Rancho San Rafael Park down in the Nevada Farms and Family area. We have a group that often volunteers with the museum that provides programming there during school breaks. And right now during summer, they're there Wednesday through Friday. And then on weekends, we also have it open, operated through the Rangers, where we have volunteers through the majority of the year. And those volunteers are often coming from UNR. We have volunteers that help at Hidden Valley and Rancho San Rafael, opening and closing the gates. And then our community service volunteers, sometimes they are court-ordered. We're currently only taking minors, normally 16 to 17 years old. But we do get a lot of students that are looking for hours for school. The ones in the picture there, they're from North Valley's high school, the Honor Society. So they were there to help pick litter. Just this kind of part of what they do is their club. And I specifically wanted to point out the Arboretum Volunteer Program. That had 5,500 hours in the last year. So I had said we had 20,000 hours in 2016. So that's a quarter of our volunteers. So if you consider these are individuals, a quarter is pretty significant compared to, groups that you've got maybe, 50 people coming for 30 hours and racking up a lot of hours. And it's also our most formal organized group of volunteers. They come every Tuesday and Thursday morning. Most are retired. We have 70 volunteers in our database. We don't have all 70 at a time, usually like 12 to 15 of them, but they do kind of cycle through coming and going. They do gardening, and we also have quite a few that help with school tours. We have an annual training that we do for them each year that we advertise. They pay $25 to attend. We allow up to 30 people. And we have different classes for them, about 10 classes, and it's horticulture training to help them just expand their skills and be prepared for what they'll be doing for us. We've had really good success with that program. We've had a lot of retention after this last year, so it's very valuable. We do quarterly appreciation events every month. In just a couple weeks, we'll be giving out those governor certificates again and doing a barbecue. We do a really fun breakfast during balloon races on Media Day. We have a holiday party. We just try to get together. And that's really, I think, a big reason why a lot of them keep coming back. A lot of them have made friends. They go out to coffee after. It's just a fun activity for them. And the Arboretum, in my opinion, is looking fantastic right now. So I really think they make a difference. And as far as community events, we have an annual spring community cleanup where we invite everyone to come out and help, and a daffodil bulb planting, which we haven't done in a year or two, but we're expecting to do one again this year. So another area that I wanted to talk about are our partnerships, and we consider these under volunteer hours because they are not being paid from us, and they are choosing to be there as volunteers. So Sierra Nevada Job Corps, we've had a relationship with them for several years, and they have a work-based learning program. So the students live there on campus, and then they're studying for a vocation, and part of their vocation is they can come and work with us for 32 hours a week, which is significant. That's, almost full-time for 6 to 8 weeks. So they're very extremely helpful. We have them at the Arboretum, 1 or 2 of them, and then with the Rangers at Rancho San Rafael. So we try to keep that year-round, but it does kind of come and go depending on their situation. Children's Cabinet, they have a Face Forward program. It's a really great program where the students choose to be in it, and they learn interview skills, how to dress for an interview. I actually go down there and interview with them, and we select somebody kind of mutually that we agree upon. And in this case, Children's Cabinet pays them to come be with us for about 20 hours a week over 5 months. So in 5 months, they learn quite a bit. And we've had 2 really great ones at the Arboretum that we've worked with, 2 total. They've both been great. And one of them is actually working as a seasonal employee with us now over the last 2 years. So that was definitely a success. Nevada Youth Empowerment Project, that is temporary housing for young women that are aging out of foster care. And we have had 2 again at the Arboretum over the last 2 years. And the one that we have with us now, she's there Monday through Friday every morning, 14 hours total during the week. So she's really spending a lot of time with us, and she's fantastic, and she really enjoys it. And I mentioned the Arboretum a lot. That is a really good place to have, to go back to those partnerships there, just because it's a really good learning experience, and we have staff that's always there. They're not moving around from park to park. So it has worked out to be a good environment for these types of programs. In the picture is one of our Job Corps guys holding a bullfrog. I don't know if you can see it during one of our school tours. So with UNR, we're really increasing that relationship. They have an I Lead Nevada initiative where they're trying to get their students volunteering out in the community more. And their Give Pulse network is an online platform which allows us to recruit volunteers. We've been doing that all last year, and it's been really, really helpful. Rancho San Rafael gets a lot of UNR students just because of the proximity of it, but this is helping us to get students to our other parks through their recruiting. And they have a new PAC internship grant program where they will pay students during the spring semester $12 an hour to come 8 to 12 hours a week. And we have just applied for an intern at the museum, an intern with me for volunteer coordination, and then one with our playground safety specialist. So we're really hoping that we get those internships approved. KT&B, Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful, we've had a long-standing relationship with them. We're always a site for their great community cleanup and Truckee River cleanup, and they just send volunteers our way all the time. We appreciate them. The Retired Senior Volunteer Program, RSVP, we're one of their partner stations. That means they've come out, they've looked around, and they've decided that we have an appropriate place for them to refer people to, and then when they meet with people that are interested in volunteering, we'll send them our way. We have a really great volunteer in the Arboretum that has spent over 200 hours volunteering last year that we got through the RSVP program. He's a pruner, and if you can imagine 200 hours of pruning, he's made a big difference. The LDS Church, we're part of their justserve.org network, so we have a listing on there. We got a lot of Eagle Scouts through the LDS Church. The picture there, the tree planting, was a men's group that came to us through justserve.org. And then we also have missionaries that will come and do litter picking in the parks kind of in their off times. So that's something that we've had set up for them to come when they're able over the last about 2 years. And then Washoe County School District, their transition services, that's the picture there on the bottom. They're students with disabilities, and we've had groups at South Valleys Park, Lazy 5, and Bartley Ranch. And they'll come do mostly litter picking, but they really enjoy being out there, and it helps them learn skills, showing up on time, dressing appropriately, those types of things. And last but not least, you guys are volunteers, so thank you for that. And can I answer any questions for you?
Questions? Comments? Thoughts?
Okay.
The only thing I'd say is that we've used that the PAC internship program before.
good.
And get very good quality interns
I can
because they're paid. So you get good folks, which is great. So
Yeah,
good
when they're
luck.
getting paid, and then the groups also that are being paid by their employers to be there are always the hardest, hardest workers.
All right, well, thank you very much, Denise.
you.
Appreciate your presentation. Okay, next we have our parks reports.
Okay, for the record, Colleen Wallace Barnum, Parks Operations Superintendent. Just a few updates for you. We have hired some new staff, some new park rangers. We had 3 vacancies. We had 1 retirement and 2 folks were promoted. So we've gone through our hiring process and we are actually going to be fully staffed. Actually, I think as of today, which is wonderful. One of our park rangers, Nick Stoyer, he was a Park Ranger 1. He was promoted to a Park Ranger 2. So he's going to be working out of Davis Creek Park and Bowers Mansion in the South region. We have Brett Hartman. He was actually a seasonal employee for us, and he was hired as the Park Ranger 1, and he'll be working out of Bartley Ranch Park. And then we have 2 new park rangers in the Para district working out of Lazy 5. One is Celia Walker. She'll be the Park Ranger 1. She actually came to us from Animal Services. She has a recreation background and extensive public interaction, so she'll be a great fit. And then we have James O'Connell. He comes to us from Roseville, California, with over 10 years experience in maintenance, planning, you name it. He's been doing quite a few things in Roseville, so we're excited to have full staffing. This time of year, July is actually Parks and Recreation Month, if you didn't know that, but we have lots of programs that go on during the summer months. We have programs on the porch that are already finished. Those are at Bowers Mansion Park. We had an average attendance of about 40 people. We have campfire programs at Galena Creek Park on Friday nights. You get to roast marshmallows and see a program on a stage in a nice grassy setting. Walk with Washoe is actually a program that we started last year with manager John Slaughter, and that program is every other week, and it is, we actually doubled our attendance at our second program, which was wonderful. We had about 14 people at the first program, and then we had 30 at the next one, so we're hoping that continues with our numbers. And then the Lazy 5 concert series in the Para District began on June 7th, and that is a great series. It's free concerts. We actually have all those concerts sponsored by corporate sponsors, and we have an average of 400 to 500 people that come out to the park every Wednesday night. So if you haven't been to any of those programs, now's the time. And then just a couple of things I wanted to highlight for the May Center. So the Arboretum, the greenhouse is up. It's not totally operational yet. We had some delays with weather, but we're hoping to get that completed and have a grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony that you will all get an invitation for at the end of August. August 30th is what we're planning it for. They finally finished the fencing project, so the Arboretum is completely fenced, and that helps with the security and safety of that location within Rancho San Rafael Park. And then the museum, I gave you all your passes for the exhibit that's coming up, the Sherlock Holmes exhibit. And then I wanted to let you know you'll also receive an invitation via email. There is a mystery dinner that's going to be happening on July 28th and 29th. And that mystery dinner will be half price for any of our volunteers or staff. So it's a $30 fee for a full dinner, and you actually get entertainment through that event. So I will send you an invitation via email. They're doing the event through Eventbrite. And I think we do have some planning updates that we'd like to get to you as well. That's it for the Park and May Center.
Welcome, new commissioners. I'm Cheryl Surface. I'm the Natural Resource and Park Planner for Washoe County. And typically, Dennis and I, we tag team. We work together on planning projects. So I'll go first, and Dennis will follow me. Just kind of, since you're brand new, wanted to kind of update you on some stuff that we're working on. One of the ones that Dave alluded to first was our Tahoe East Shore Trail, also known as the SR28 Shared Use Path. The pathway is expected to continue from State Line South Shore to State Line Crystal Bay. We completed a south demonstration project in Douglas County, and we're currently working on what's known as the north demonstration project, a 10-foot shared use path between Incline Village and Sand Harbor State Park. The contractor is Granite Construction. It's being managed through Nevada Department of Transportation, NDOT. The primary funding for that is a Federal Lands Access Program grant, also Washoe County One bond money, State Question One funding, a large project. We've put in 3 parking areas adjacent to the old Ponderosa Ranch. The shared use path will then continue along to Sand Harbor. We put a box culvert under State Route 28, so you'll go underneath 28 to access the pathway. We will be relocating all shoulder side parking off of 28 to safe parking nodes. And Washoe County has an agreement with multiple partners to work on that. So that's a really exciting project that's moving forward. We have, there's a website that you can access to get updates on the project, and we send out updates periodically as well. I think there was a presentation in June by Nevada Department of Transportation. Fantastic overall presentation. If we need to see it again as we move forward, we'll be happy to bring one back to you. Additionally, we're working on acquiring another 93 acres of the Ballardini Ranch. We've done our due diligence. We're in the process now of looking at an offer letter to the owners of the Ballardini Ranch. And with that, we've been constructing a trail connector from our Ballardini Ranch trailhead to Thomas Creek trailhead. We've got about 2/3 of that under construction, working with the Forest Service on another 1/3 of the piece of that connection to put it on the Forest Service and off of a roadway. So hoping to have that open next year, the connection between Ballardini Ranch and Thomas Creek. So we'll continue working on that project in the fall. Additionally, we finally got approval from the Forest Service on our Hunter Creek Bridge design. We'll be placing a bridge across Hunter Creek at our Michael D. Thompson Trailhead. Washoe County has the Michael D. Thompson Trailhead right across Hunter Creek is Forest Service property, so we have to have a Forest Service approved bridge design to put in there. We'll go out to construction on that bridge in the fall. We've been working with the Truckee Meadows Weed Coordinating Group. We received a grant for funding to do some weed application in our parks along the Truckee River. We've completed that project. We're continuing to do weed work on all across our almost 13,000 acres of open space and parks. And frankly, we just can't keep up. There's so many weeds this year, but continuing to work on that. Working on fuels projects with Nevada Division of Forestry, NDF, and also local homeowners associations. Currently, we're working with NDF and the Galena Homeowners Association off of Joy Lake Road to do some fuels work along the Galena Creek corridor between the HOA open space and the county open space. We're completing a fuels project in our Galena Creek Regional Park with NDF, and then we're working with the Arrow Creek Homeowners Association on another grant application that we haven't received the go-ahead to work on, but continuing our fuels work with the Washoe County Open Space and the Arrow Creek HOA, and also additionally adjacent to the Saddle Creek HOA. So trying to keep up with our fuels reduction work and our weed work in cooperation with agency partners. Little Valley Fire, I was the Burned Area Emergency Response Team lead on the Little Valley Fire, continuing to do work out there with our partners, primarily for sedimentation. We've had a lot of sedimentation relocation, working with the property owners to make sure that we're putting in adequate BMPs for that. We've got our engineers working on some rock check dams. Nevada Division of Forestry has a salvage logging contract in there right now, so they're doing a lot of logging in there. Bowers Mansion, we've got some WC1 funding to upgrade Bowers Mansion. We had some issues with water. It's a flat-roofed structure that's very old. I recently met yesterday with our historic architect. He's putting together a plan that we'll then be implementing starting this fall to do some structural work at Bowers Mansion. Primarily, it's associated with the porches and the chimneys and shedding water from the roofway into better locations than it's currently going. We have a Medusa head grant through NDF. We have about $250,000 to treat the weed Medusa head. We'll be doing the majority of that work late fall, and that will include pre-emergent application on the Medusa head weeds associated with fire activity that we've had in the area. And then I'm working with NDF to do resource management plans on 2 of our regional parks that are heavily forested, the Galena Regional Park and the Davis Creek Regional Park. So the NDF Resource Management Officer and myself will be doing resource management plans for those 2 parks, including additional fuels work that we may have in there, any kind of weed work that we need. So we do a lot of work with our agency partners. The majority of our funding comes through grants. So just continuing to work that through. And I'll turn it over to Dennis.
Thanks, Cheryl. For the record, Dennis Troy, Park Planner. This is a very busy summer for us as far as playground updates go. We have almost $4 million worth of projects going in the ground this summer alone. A big chunk of that is the North Valley Sports Park expansion, which is about a $2.3 million project up off of Silver Lake Road at North Valley's Regional Park. It's a large utility field as well as a Babe Ruth field, and we're doing our best to kind of squeeze some money and figure out how to build a Little League field as well, but it also incorporates about an 80-stall parking space as well. Gator Swamp and Eagle Canyon are currently under construction. Both of these projects are brand new playgrounds or replacement of existing playgrounds with new playground equipment, as well as rubberized tiles. And that's taking place kind of up in the northeast. Down south, Thomas Creek, as well as Whites Creek and Callahan Park will be under construction probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks or so. Thomas Creek Park will be receiving brand new play equipment as well as tiles, and Whites Creek Park and Callahan Park will be receiving rubberized tiles as well. The reason that we're putting these rubberized tiles in is because lots of the existing parks that we do have don't meet the ASTM standards for fall protection, and so we want to make sure that should a kid or when a kid falls off equipment, they properly bounce back, if you will. Bowers Mansion Playground will be getting replaced this fall. Tentative start date is going to be in the middle of August. It will be taking out the upper large playground as well as a smaller one and replacing it with new equipment and rubberized tiles as well. So pretty busy with playground projects. One other thing that Cheryl and I are tag teaming our efforts on right now is actually preparing the Washoe County Parks Master Plan. The county actually right now does not have a master plan that more or less guides us and identifies any sort of deficiencies where we don't have enough parks right now. And so that master plan is currently underway. We're working on a consultant, Wood Rogers, on updating that plan. Like I said, it's going to be really focused on identifying any sort of deficiencies countywide where we don't have any sort of facilities that serve the public. Quick history on that. The county right now has 21 sub-districts. Each one of those districts has a pot of money that is, I think Dave alluded to it earlier, which has residential construction tax or RCT monies in it. RCT money is for every new home that is built, up to $1,000 goes into that sub-district. There's some districts right now that have about $300. There's some districts that have about almost $2 million. And so one of the things that we're going to be looking at very closely, and we're going to be reaching out to you to get your feedback on, is actually consolidating these districts such that we have a little bit more flexibility of where we can do improvements to these neighborhood parks. The ultimate outcome is that by identifying these deficiencies, it's going to help us dictate and build our 5-year CIP plan moving forward. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, any questions, comments? I have a few things I just want to say quickly, and that would just be that both of you, but Cheryl especially, do such a great job of bringing in grant money to this county. It's amazing. It's millions of dollars that you bring in, and people should know that. That's fantastic work. It's also great to see Ballardini Trailhead being expanded. We need more trails in this community. We need trails that connect. We need trails that are loops. So it's really fantastic to see that going, moving ahead. The SR 28, thank you, Cheryl, for all your work on that as well, for making the safe parking on that stretch of road a priority. That's just incredibly important. The bridge at Hunter Creek, that's great. I was up there not long ago, and you kind of have to bushwhack your way around that, and it's a little sketchy because there's just no way to get across the creek because of all the rain and snowmelt. It's neat to walk up there now, but it's hard to use that trail. So that's great to know that that bridge plan was approved. When it comes to the pre-emergence spraying, is that going to be in parks or just open spaces? I'm just concerned about the half-life of that and whether that's like you guys sign that when you do the pre-emergent.
Primarily, we use that in our open space areas for several reasons. That we can get a large area treated that's not adjacent to the private properties. When it comes to anything adjacent to the private properties or along our corridors, if we are spraying that, it has usually a 4-hour window of opportunity where you need to let it dry. The pre-emergent, we usually spray late in the fall, right before the winter snows come. So that's the best application time for us. But we primarily try and do the larger landscapes.
I would love to see, like the restoration ecology, you use photo points, so it's like a qualitative way to gauge if there was success, and so it's just pictures. That's are nice. It would be really great to see like an A/B plot, like you're gonna spray this one with Medusa head, or you're gonna spray this one, and then you're not gonna spray this one, and they're relatively close to the same slope aspect and all that kind of stuff, and then compare the two just to see is there any effect from the spraying. It would be really interesting, I think, for all of us to just take a look at real quick one day.
Fortunately, we were able to do that, and I have monitoring data and monitoring plots set up on any of the places that I do applications. And prior on some of the previous funding that I had, we actually did field trips. So we did a lot of opportunities to test different products, a lot of opportunities to test different methodologies, and a lot of scientific data was accumulated. We actually had a paper that one of the scientists put together and presented at one of the weed conferences regarding some of the work that we've previously done. So thank you for highlighting that we have had the opportunity to do that. I would love to do another field trip and show you some of the projects that we've been able to do.
Yeah, field trips would be great. Reading peer-reviewed journal articles, not what we're probably going to do, but looking at some pictures or going on a field trip would be great. And then, so we don't have a master plan at all that's current. I mean, isn't there a master plan from there's a trails master plan that was 2008 or 9, and that's not I don't know. I'm confused by that.
We have, for the record, Dennis Troy, Parks Planner, we have individual master plans, I'll use that term loosely, for each individual park, which are really no more than exhibits. But we actually do not physically have a county-wide master plan specifically talking about the parks.
And so this master plan would be a guideline. So, because it's interesting, with all the build out that's happening in these new construction sites or developments, it'd be fantastic to have something that's more than just guidelines. It would say if you're a developer and you're gonna put in 200 units in an area, you can't just either skip putting in a park or put in the smallest possible park or put in a park in an area that is the poorest quality piece of that parcel. I mean, it would be nice to see something like that could hold developers' feet. Well, just make everybody more responsible when it comes to making sure that there's enough parks in development. So thank you for you guys for making that a priority. Yeah.
We're actually in the middle of actually preparing several different maps that show where these deficiencies are, and that's based off of existing development, existing approved tentative maps, so we can kind of gauge about how many more homes are going to be going in this area. Right now, one of the hot spots that we know about is the Spanish Springs area. When you pull it up on these different maps, it's glaring red that we need to get some sort of new facilities up there, whether they be another regional facility. Probably not, but they're definitely going to need some attention up in that area.
And speaking of that area, it's kind of like that. That's the whole idea with this consolidation of the residential construction tax districts. That's also a fantastic idea. You guys were pretty close, like that close to 2013 or so, to consolidating those districts into 3 or 5 districts. And I don't know what ever happened to that, but
Some
legislation. Okay, so it would be great to see that happen, because I think my memory of that was that the community was very supportive of it. Anybody that came to the charrettes, and I know the Parks Commission at the time was supporting of it, and so that's great too, to revitalize that, because the reason why is you have all these different districts, and it would be great if some of these districts that are already well-developed parks, you could move some of the money in, because the districts are so small, you can move it across the mountain, or this dividing some of those districts and build a nice park for folks that want it. And that's it. So thank you both very much. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is the director's report.
Good afternoon. Again, for the record, Dave Solero, Director, Community Services Department. Just a couple of quick items, just kind of a recap of the June Board of County Commissioners actions that affect the Park Commission. So we've reappointed Chairman Daniel and Tom Gwynn as commissioners for another term, and then we appointed 3 new commissioners. So welcome to the commission. Also, that was June 13th. June 27th. The board also agreed to take some WC1 funding, about $300,000, transfer to the city, or actually pay to the city of Sparks for some improvements to parking lot out at Golden Eagle Regional Park. So that'll take care of some needed pressure off of the Little League area for parking there. The board also approved an easement purchase sale agreement between Washoe County and Tumwa for some subsurface easements associated with Tumwa new water treatment plant up off of Whites Creek. So there are a couple of little easements up there to assist and associate getting water out of Whites Creek for treatment. So that's really what occurred at the board level in June. And with that, we do have some information in the parks reports for golf. That's been an item of interest. I will let you know that I've been out inspected both golf courses. Things really appear to be going really well with the golf courses. Sierra Sage has been pretty steady as far as numbers of rounds. Washoe Golf Course actually has been about 6 or 7% in the last 2 months over the running 5-year average on rounds of golf. So there's some improvement there, and important to everybody. Washoe County continues to get the check on a monthly basis from both operators. So that's good stuff. So if there are any questions for the director, I'm here to answer.
All right, thank you. Questions, comments? The only thing I have to say is that that WC1 just keeps giving. I don't understand how that happens, but it's great to hear it.
Yeah, it was staff's ability to leverage about every grant known to man with that money. Really, when you look at it, it's probably not WC1 money anymore. It's just leverage money over the years, and it just continues to go, and it's fantastic.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
One other thing, if I may, as the director, since Deputy District Attorney Mike Large wasn't able to be here today, one of the items I'm sure he would have talked with the new commissioners and existing commissioners about is open meeting law. So one of the things that actually occurred when we sent out the poll for this meeting was we sent it out to all commissioners and didn't put on there, please do not reply to all. If you reply to all, that is actually a violation of open meeting law. As the the guise that you're making decisions outside of an open meeting. So when we send out emails to all of you, if you wouldn't mind just not replying to all, just reply just singly to Joanna or whomever might be sending that out. Help us, make sure we don't violate that item. We will have Michael Large do kind of an ethics review and some of that with all the commissioners at the next meeting. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Director. All right, next would be commissioners' comments.
Carissa Tashiro, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to serve on this commission. It was really fascinating to listen to all of the projects and programs that you all are clearly so passionate about. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Matthew Weber, I want to thank everyone for their presentations, and I'm excited to be serving on this commission.
Chris Denzel, I'll just echo the comments or the sentiments of the two comments that were made in front of me. And thank you.
All right. Anything? Nope. Okay. I'd just like to say on the record, I think I mentioned this a couple months ago, but we weren't on the record. Assembly Bill 379 was passed in the legislature this year for the state, and that is a good thing. What 379 does is it authorizes certain local governments to create parks, trails, and open space districts. That couldn't be done before. It couldn't be done before June 5th when the governor signed the bill into law. So now, in the state of Nevada, we can create park districts. I don't know exactly what the next steps are for that to make a park district in this county, but we're working on it. And I just want to thank a few people. I saw Karen Mullen come in and leave, former park director for the county. She was instrumental in making this bill a law. Also, Julie Conway, who was a longtime employee of the county for parks and also the director of Reno Parks. She played a vital role. And lastly, just to thank Assemblywoman Amber Joyner, who sponsored the bill. She worked tirelessly on rewrites. Believe me, it was rewritten several times, moved all around through NRS, and finally became its own section. So that's very exciting that parks districts can be created. And the last group of people I'd like to thank are the members of Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation, for which is an organization I work. Dozens of them wrote over and over to their assembly people, to their senators, and to the governor to compel them to pass this into law. So thank you to those members as well. And that's all I have for commissioner comments. All right, so we'll move on next to public comment, and we do have one public comment. Kathy, would you like to make a comment?
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I'm also the United States President. I just wanted to mention, the pipes and the pipelines that are going underneath my apartment where I'm living now are starting to shake my apartment because the sewer lines have to be, connected to my sewer line. My toilet water has to be connected to those pipes. I just wanted to let you know, too, that when they're not using my toilet water, it does go way down, and there's no water inside my toilet. So these poles and wires that they are using, to connect themselves for water is getting unreal. Also, I just wanted to let you know, too, the problem is not going to go away. It's going to still exist. And I just wanted to tell you, they removed my outside faucet and my hose. And there's no way for me to water at all because they have that taken off where they need it for their premises. But remember, these people do not live on the property. They do not live in their apartment. They're just squatters. And that's all they are. They need to live off of other people, like using my stove, to cook, to use my, gas in my oven in order to cook. They have to steal my electric from my refrigerator because they don't have refrigeration. And their food is spoiling. Their food is filled with mildew. So they bring it to my refrigerator, stick it in my refrigerator. I'm really, really tired of this, and I wish somebody would help me get into a different place like a house, because they're also kidnapping my pets. And my pets are all sliced open, and their organs are taken out of their bodies. And they cry day and night because they hope that one of these days we can go home and we could call it our home. But where we're living right now, it's not home at all. You just don't know what we are up to with, all that stuff going on, chopped heads, body parts. We cannot live like that. I mean, I just heard that my body was taken out of my home 92 times dead.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all.